My friend Milton Dykes, who passed away of Parkinson's disease, used to always say, the only handicap is a bad attitude. And that's it. This guy would, shake violently from Parkinson's, and he'd say, the only handicap is a bad attitude. Wow. And it's like, what can I do to change my attitude? And that's up to me, man.
Yo, what up? This is John Feldmann. Today, he's more known for being a multi-platinum record producer, but I grew up knowing him as the lead singer of the band Goldfinger.
My attitude about this has definitely changed, and who am I to judge anyone that makes it in the music business? My hat's off. It is so hard to make it in the music business. So hard and so competitive. So many people want to take the same project you're getting hired for. So many. And it's like, whenever I see any artist that makes it, I'm like, yeah, we can still do this.
This is the entire remarkable story of Goldfinger, or whatever. Likes and subs, let's go. Our narrative begins in 1993 in Los Angeles, California. John is in a punk band called Family Crisis. He got bored of that and wanted to start a ska-punk band with the drummer from Zero Tolerance, Darren Pfeiffer. So, yeah, they did that. John was working at a shoe store with a guy named Simon. Simon played the bass. In 1995, they made a 6-song demo to sell at shows. It was called Richter. It came out on the indie label Mojo. It featured demo versions of songs that would be re-released very soon. The demo version of Miles Away might be my all-time favorite Goldfinger track. How deep is your love? How deep is the ocean? They did the whole suits thing early on, but washing the suits while on the road proved to be just too much effort, so they ditched the whole suit gimmick after about 3 shows on the road. Their name was actually derived from the wearing of the suits. Since the suits were James Bond-like, they named the band after one of the most iconic James Bond films of all time, Goldfinger, obviously. In an MTV interview, John says that Simon came up with the name. One fateful day, while working at the shoe store, a magical A&R guy came in and wanted to buy a pair of shoes. He came in for shoes and left with a new band signed to his major record label. To be honest, I don't know how that works. But that's how they tell the story, so that's how I'm telling the story. There's definitely more to the story, but that's how they tell it. I swear. Then in 1996, Mojo would join Universal Music Group in a joint venture, and later that year, Goldfinger would release their debut self-titled album on that freshly merged label. Here in Your Bedroom would become the hit single off the disc, but Answers and The City with Two Faces are the tracks that stick with me the most personally. In 1996 in Montreal, John gave the Mighty Mighty Bosstones the same credit I gave them in the last video that I made, about how the Bosstones basically started what all the 90s ska bands were playing. I had a few people try to contest that in the comments of that video, so here's John just flat out saying it for you.
But to me, it's like the Bosstones and No Doubt have been together the longest, and Bosstones really kind of created what a lot of these bands play now,
Right off the bat, the band was off and running, with appearances on MTV's 120 Minutes and Conan O'Brien. Here in Your Bedroom was doing decent numbers, and the band was enjoying themselves some of that highly coveted 1990s rock and roll success. Speaking of that Conan appearance, it didn't exactly go well. When Conan came over after the band's performance to kind of thank the band and give them a hug or whatever, the drummer, Darren, out of pure excitement, picked up the near 7-foot-tall Conan O'Brien and accidentally suplexed him to the ground. Roll it.
You broke your guitar! Hey!
A couple days later, Conan addressed the situation on his show, but of course, he turned it into a bit. Conan rules.
There's something we need to talk about that happened here on the show on Wednesday night. We had a ton of calls about this. We had, I think, literally like 3,000 calls. And we've never really had anything like this happen on the show, so we felt we should talk about it tonight. This whole occurrence happened right after the band Goldfinger performed. And then he got me way up in the air and he accidentally dropped me. This really happened. And actually, well, I'm glad you can laugh about it. Well, anyway, I flipped over and fell, and you can really hear I fell really hard. Yes. It was kind of scary. Now, folks, I wasn't hurt. I'm fine. Just a moment of truth. The part that hurt was where he grabbed me by the crotch. He lifted me up. That's what hurt.
Pretty reckless behavior, Darren. Not gonna lie. Darren was asked about the incident many years later, and he showed no remorse. He even suggested that he pitched an idea to Conan for Conan to get revenge at a later date. In Darren's pitch, he suggested he wanted to use mats of some sort to get slammed down upon, suggesting he knows that getting slammed would hurt.
And, when you guys were done the song, you came up and you picked Conan up, and, so my question to you is, he's a big guy, and, did you know what you were doing when you went and picked him up, or in the middle of when you picked him up, you're like, oh shit, I shouldn't have done this?
Well, that was a complete spur-of-the-moment thing. When we came off stage, we finished our song, and he started to hug us, and he jumped into us, and I wanted initially to get underneath him and pick him up on my shoulders, but I went in from the front. So when I was picking him up, I actually suplexed him. He fell down, but so much, I'm a big guy too, and there was so much adrenaline rushing through my body from just performing that when I picked him up, he fell backwards and then I fell on him. And then I picked him up by his crotch.
The part that hurt was where he grabbed me by the crotch. He lifted me up.
And backstage, he was so cool. He said he was a little sore, but he was fine because he's a big guy, and we sent him a guitar and some flowers. We haven't been on since. So I think that might have something to do with it. I saw him in Toronto for when Conan O'Brien came to Toronto to do some shows, and I was at the party and I saw him and I said, "Hey, do you remember me?" And he goes, "No." And I go, "I'm in Goldfinger." He's like, "Oh yeah, that's right, I remember you now." And so we had a nice chat and we shared a drink, and I said, "Look, what'd be really funny is when we have a new record out, have us on the show, and it'll be predetermined. You're like, this is what happened last time this band was on," and they show the clip. Here they perform their new single, blah, blah, blah. Here's Goldfinger. And we play the song, and then we have some mats set up on the ground, but we cover them up with something. And then you grab me and throw me and pick me up and suplex me or drop me on the mats, and then you scream revenge. And I'll be like, "Mom," I'll grab my back in agony. He goes, "That's hilarious, that's hilarious." And he actually gave me his phone number.
Okay, Darren, whatever you say. Goldfinger was riding high in the mid-90s, but the late 90s would be a whole different story. Foreshadowing. In 1997, the band would drop their biggest ever record, Hang Ups. The opening track, Superman, would go on to change their lives forever, but not for a couple more years. In a reaction video John did to Tony Hawk singing Superman with a cover band, John reveals that Superman was originally written for the first record, but no one raised their hand to put it on the debut. He goes on to say that they put the song out first on a split 7-inch with Real Big Fish. After public reception to the song was so great, they decided to use it as the opener to their second album. It's wild to think that their biggest song ever almost didn't happen. The album hit 85 on Billboard's Top 200. Superman is the big hit off of it, obviously, but my favorite has gotta be the closer, Chris Caton, probably.
Chris Caton, I called you Satan.
1998, John began twisting knobs for other bands. He spent countless hours in the studio teaching himself how to record and engineer. EQ until the sun came up. He started off by working with Illinois pop-punk bands like Show Off and Mess. More on his illustrious production career in a bit. 1999 was the year everything changed for the band in a massive way. Tony Hawk has entered the chat. Tony Hawk was the guy that captured the zeitgeist of the late 90s in an alarmingly all-encapsulating way. He needs no introduction. Definitely. Him landing the 900 at the X Games in '99 is my generation's moon landing. Then, one day, Tony gets his name just slapped on a little gaming franchise you may have heard of called Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. This little video game was a revolution in gaming at the time and was a must-have for anyone who owned a PlayStation. Goldfinger's song from a couple years ago, Superman, is featured in the soundtrack. The song would go on to be the song you associate with the gaming franchise. I would go as far as to call it Tony Hawk's personal theme song at this point. So much so, in fact, that a documentary made about the game series was called Pretending I'm a Superman, named after the lyrics from that Goldfinger song. Absolutely iconic. This series and that one song alone is enough to solidify John and Goldfinger's legacy forever. With the remakes of the video game still coming out to this day, it has kept Goldfinger in the conversation. The 2000s would show us how ambitious and dedicated John actually was. He wasn't just some punk kid from LA who accidentally wrote a hit song one time. He had a passion for crafting songs and for collaboration. As those creative juices began to bubble up inside him, Goldfinger had another hit album up their sleeves. In the year 2000, they would drop Stomping Ground to uproarious applause due to their cover of Nina's 99 Red Balloons. Goldfinger were able to put their own spin on the track that gave the song new life with a new crowd in a new generation. This song is as much a part of their overall legacy as everything else I just mentioned in this video so far. Not a bad little foundation to build a career on, I'd say. Stomping Ground is my personal favorite album of theirs. Ragers and bangers from top to bottom. Easily my most listened to album of theirs, and it's honestly not even close. John has got such a natural knack for hooks and melodies. He's sharper on all fronts on this piece of business. With the support of a tight band around him, these songs truly shine and they're unstoppable. It's a shame this record didn't reach the heights of their earlier stuff, even though it's stronger material. Ska's moment in the mainstream sun was certainly starting to wane by the year 2000. To be fair though, Goldfinger has always been more of a pop band focused on songs, and the ska elements sounded more like The Police than Madness. That balloon song about the fall of the Berlin Wall is the big track off of this puppy, but my favorite is obviously Donut Dan. It didn't age that well, but I named an old music project of mine off of that song. I called it Donut Dan Jr., and for some reason I pressed it onto a bunch of vinyl, and I didn't even bother releasing it. I have like 250 of these bad boys. You want one? Maybe I'll actually drop this thing if this video gets 100,000 views. It's a 12-inch with only 3 songs on it. I know you want one. Let's get this video to 100,000 views. Likes and subs. Let's go. 1999 may have been the most pivotal year for the band, but I'd say the year 2002 was the most pivotal year for John Feldmann as an artist, producer, and overall music mogul. First, let's talk about the Goldfinger record that he made that year, Open Your Eyes. The band still charted on Billboard, but they weren't able to reach the previous heights of the 90s. It was in the studio with other artists that would set John's professional career on fire in 2002. He did the U's debut LP. It went platinum. He did the Story of the Year's debut in 2003. It too went platinum. He did Good Charlotte's Young and Hopeless LP in 2002, and it went double platinum. He did Ashley Simpson's autobiography in 2004. It went triple platinum before her career totally fell off due to the whole SNL incident. Maybe I'll do a video on that whole situation someday. Like this video right now if you want to see that video.
Shockingly, it appears Simpson had been lip-syncing to Pieces of Me, or at least singing along with the track.
Off the bat, immediately, he found more success as a producer than a rock and roller. And that's saying something because his rock career was nothing to scoff at. These projects would keep John endlessly busy, but Goldfinger was also still going strong. In 2005, Goldfinger put out Disconnection Notice. Unfortunately, the days of Goldfinger charting on Billboard are over. However, in 2005, John did a record with Hilary Duff, and of course, it went platinum, obviously.
They talk about me, they know my name, they think.
He just kept winning. He has proven himself to be more than just a rock guy. By now, people in the industry start going to John as more of a collaborator and a co-writer than just simply a producer. He's a bona fide hit maker. In 2007, he did a record for Australian pop group The Veronicas. Of course, it went 2 times platinum as well. The amount of gold and platinum record plaques this guy must have scattered around his house has gotta be nuts. And just when you think he might be going permanently down the pop path, he does a record with metalcore greats Atreyu. John has been praised for the way that he lets songs breathe and for his anthemic choruses. He has a way of adapting his approach to each new artist in a way that feels tailored specifically to the artist he's working with. In interviews, John has said he just loves to get into a room with the artist and an acoustic guitar to just bang out the songs Beatles style, or whatever. I guess that he's just old school like that.
It's just that I'm old school like that. Roll that rap over souls like that.
He can get quality performances out of the artists he works with by celebrating the good performances and tenderly coaching the rough ones. Over the next 10 years, he would help create albums with Panic at the Disco, Papa Roach, Blink-182, All Time Low, 5 Seconds of Summer, Black Veil Brides, Beartooth, and literally so many others. John is now known affectionately in the industry as Feldy and has built up quite the resume of who's who's.
You got me thinking that we can run away. You wanna take it?
In 2008, Goldfinger would hit us with Hello Destiny. Yeah, they still got it. To be honest, I haven't heard this album until it was time to research for this video. Goldfinger fell off my personal radar by 2008. This album is okay. There are a lot of really strong melodies and hook lines, but it doesn't hit quite as hard as 90s Goldfinger. And then there would be a 9-year gap between records, as John kept plugging away as an industry shot caller. Over the next handful of years, he'd do albums for Korn, 311, Godsmack, Mod Sun, Avril Lavigne, and again, so many more, literally.
Driving my fist down deep inside it.
In 2016, drummer Darren Pfeiffer left the band due to a falling out with John. In an interview, John said Darren was always getting into trouble and being rowdy, citing the Conan incident and various other situations involving the police and arrests and stuff. It's unclear what the specific reason is, but what is clear is that Goldfinger is John's band and he's the only remaining original member. The band operates basically as a pop-punk supergroup at this stage of their career. In 2017, John tricked Travis Barker into tracking drums for the next Goldfinger record called The Knife. Here's them telling K-Rock how the whole swindle went down.
The easiest thing about this Goldfinger album is that I didn't know I was recording it at the time.
You didn't know?
I walked into the studio, he said, hey, I'm gonna play something for you. It's like an idea for Goldfinger. So I put my headphones on and I sit down, and then he's like, okay, check this out. And then just kept playing songs I kept recording, and then afterwards it's like, hey, you just recorded the Goldfinger album. You know?
So Travis Barker can be tricked into playing drums on your
Yeah, it
album.
was pretty cool. So I had no idea, or I probably, if it was 3 days before and he's like, hey, you're coming in to record the Goldfinger album, I might have been like, I don't know, maybe some jitters, whatever, but I didn't even know I was doing it.
Love him or hate him, Travis is one of those drummers who has a very distinctive style. Like, you can tell a Travis song from a million miles away, and I gotta say, it's so cool to hear Travis on this record. There's an energy on this album that I wasn't expecting to feel, especially after the band's 9-year hiatus. Oh, and yeah, the fact that they're old as frick now. But this album has a nostalgic flavor that's hard to put my finger on, but it might really be as simple as 2 bands from my childhood are working together again and it reminds me of a simpler time. Whatever it was about the connection with Travis, it would lead John to linking up with one of his main collaborators moving into the 2020s. Avril Lavigne. Before we get there though, Goldfinger has one more album to drop. Never Look Back came out in 2020. 2020 would be the year Goldfinger would see another surge in popularity on streaming platforms. not necessarily due to the album they dropped that year. I'd say it has more to do with the release of the Tony Hawk 1+2 remake that came out that year. This remake isn't just a quick cash grab, it's a great game that really brought back the feeling. It also brought back millions of listens to Superman once again. Hooray, royalties! In 2022, Avril Lavigne was set to make her big return. She signed to Travis Barker's label. She got John to co-write and produce. Together, they all assembled an album called Love Sucks. I'll be honest, it's not necessarily for me, but it is cool how the three worlds of Blink-182, Goldfinger, and Avril Lavigne ended up intermingling so many years after they all hit it big. It's actually kind of genius when you think about it. Before we tie a bow on this thing, let me quickly rank their albums in order of my personal enjoyment. Number 8, Hello Destiny. Number 7, Open Your Eyes. 6, Disconnection Notice. 5, Never Look Back. 4, The Knife. Top 3 time. Number 3, Hang Ups. Number 2, self-titled debut. And number 1, Stomping Ground. I think it's cool as hell that even though John experienced immense industry success, that he stuck with his little punk rock band. I feel John stayed true to himself and just followed his music journey down its natural path. John loves the Police and the art of crafting a song. His passion led him to learning how to put songs together from top to bottom with care and attention to melodic detail. That skill set is very marketable, and so many artists want a piece of the magic. He's a versatile collaborator that honestly has the song at heart every time he clocks in for work. He cares deeply about animals and mental health and has a great overall outlook and attitude. I think John Feldmann is pretty cool. Thanks for watching.
I'm Mr. King Dice. I'm the gamest in the land. I never play nice. I'm the devil's right-hand man.